Okay, I think I'm going live right now. It's been a long time since I've done a live video, so I don't even know if this is working. We'll find out. I'm actually in the middle of editing another Happy Lady video. I was gonna finish that up today, and then I just decided I had something else I wanted to share, and it's kind of exciting. At least it is for me. So I thought I would get on today and share that with you guys in a live video. We'll try this out, and then I'll get back to finishing the other video, and you can expect that soon. Okay, so feel free, you guys, to get on at any time and comment or chat. I am just trying to figure this out. So I recorded a video that I'm editing right now, and I noticed after the fact that the sound was really terrible. So I think I'm having some technical problems with my camera. The sound kind of is there some days and it's not there other days. So if anybody gets on, if you can hear me, let me know. If I sound like I'm underwater and I'm super far away, let me know either way. So it's something I need to look into. And of course the jets are about to fly over, it sounds like, so it's gonna get really loud and you probably won't be able to hear me in a minute anyways. Okay, so I posted on YouTube, I think it was last week, that I have this awesome story to share about this cool piece of history that ended up in my life. So I thought it would be really fun to talk about it in a live video, to kind of show you in real time what it is I've discovered. And then if you want to join in the chat, feel free to comment below if there's anything you want to ask or share. These are kind of fun and exciting topics, things like what I'm sharing today, and so I like to have it feel more personal, like we're having a conversation. Like I just, went over to my friend's house and, I'm showing you something really cool and exciting. So hope you don't mind the live video. Okay, and I just realized the lighting is a little bit crazy in here. It looks like there's like a blue filter on here, but as long as you can see me and hear me, we're good. Okay, so you guys, this all started, like a month ago, I want to say. I received an email one day from a random person, and she pretty much said, "You don't know me." This might sound a little strange. I love those emails. Just so you know, if you follow my channel and you've watched my videos before, anytime I get an email that starts out with, "You don't know me," and this might sound kind of strange, I know right away it's going to be an exciting email. So those have always turned into really good stories. Okay, so the situation started out that way, and I continued on reading, and she went on to say, she said, "I like to go into antique stores and I like to buy things, pieces of history that I know nothing about, and sometimes I'll buy these old photo albums." And she said, 20 years ago, I was at an antique store. Now she lives out in California, and I think she said the antique store was in Oakland. She said, "I went into the store and I noticed this photo album, and I wasn't really looking to buy a photo album at the time. I was there just to, look at the antiques. And she said I had this really strong feeling that I needed to buy this photo album. I don't know why, but I listened and I bought it." And she said, "For 20 years, this has sat in my house and I have not known what to do with it. And it wasn't until recently I looked at it and decided that it was time to try to relocate a home for this photo album, to try to find the family that it belonged to." So now if you know my last name, for those of you who don't, oh, she spelled it wrong too. Okay, this is funny because you'll understand why this story is so unique. First of all, here's how you don't spell my last name. Oh my goodness, I just showed you my address. You guys. Oh, I can't edit that out. That's the disadvantage of a live video. Well, anyways, there we go. Okay, and I will cover up her address. Okay, there we go. That's how she spelled my last name. And it's actually Riettzsch. And she said, "I Googled your last name and you're the only person who came up. So I reached out to you thinking that maybe, there's some kind of a connection. Maybe this person is in your family tree. So the lady that she believes this album belonged to, her name would have been Catherine Reach. And she lived and died in Quincy, Illinois. And I think she died in 1920. And right away I thought, well, too bad, because my husband is from Germany and he is the first person in his family to come here to the United States. So all of his family still lives over there. As far as I'm aware, none of his immediate family or ancestors ever came over here. He's the first. So right away I was like, darn it, I don't know that I can make a connection to this photo album. However, this other little voice inside of me said, your last name is not very common, especially here in the United States. It's not very often you're gonna find a Reach, which is why when she looked me up, when she Googled my last name, it took her straight to me. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone onto Facebook and Instagram and other places and I've typed in my last name just to see if there's anybody here in the US that has my last name, because maybe there's a connection, and I've not been able to find anybody. They always live over in Germany. I will say, like 10 years ago, a woman from, I forget which country in South America, I think it might have been Brazil or Argentina. She reached out to me because we have the same last name, and she wanted to know if we were related. And I know some Germans settled down there years ago after World War II, but I didn't know how to make that connection. So I think we're still friends on Facebook. But she doesn't speak any English, and we don't ever talk. But every now and then it is exciting when you find somebody else with this last name, because it's not very common. Now over in Germany, it's still not very common, but that's where you're going to find more people with this name. And so a lot of them live in a certain region. They live in the Dresden area. For those of you, anybody who's familiar with Germany, there's a really cool history behind the city of Dresden, and that's where these Reaches all seem to originate from. In fact, I just remembered, before I get into the story, I'm not purposely trying to stall because I do have a lot I have to do today, but I know in this office somewhere, oh my goodness, you guys, I'm gonna have to ask my husband where he put it. I got him the neatest little gift, and I don't know where he put it, you guys. It used to be hanging on the wall right here. And he painted, and he took everything off the walls. Oh, I wished I had it to show you. It's this neat, that's not it. It's this neat story of the Reach name. And this is a really cool story because when was it? It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We went up to Oktoberfest up at Snowbird, and my husband was working up there, so I thought I would bring the kids up and we would just hang out and swim and stay in the room with him. But he was working, and it was Oktoberfest, and so they had all these little booths out because they had this little festival going. And I was walking around with the kids, and I came across this family history booth where they said, we can find any surname in the world. Like, there isn't any name we can't find. And if we can't find it, nobody can find it. That's how good we are. And I said to this man working at the booth, well, I like your optimism, but I highly doubt you're going to be able to find the history of this last name because I've never been able to do it. I've been to other places and gone to other booths at family history events, and no one's been able to locate the origins of my husband's last name. And he's like, let me try it. He's like, I love a challenge. So he entered our name into the system, and I waited for not even 5 minutes, and all of a sudden this story popped up, and he's like, bingo, there it is. And right away he printed it out. It was so awesome. It was the whole story of my husband's last name, where it originated from, and the very first person ever known with that last name. So he printed it out, I had it framed, and I gave that to my husband. It was either for Father's Day or his birthday. His birthday's in October, so it would have been his birthday. And it was a pretty cool birthday present. So we had a little bit more information about his family. Now the other thing that makes the story extra cool and exciting is that we have not really been able to have any breakthroughs on my husband's side of the tree. So he we've only been able to go back maybe 5 generations, and we used to just blame it on the fact that a lot of the records were destroyed during World War II because a lot of the churches were bombed and they lost a lot of that information. A lot of the records were burned and destroyed, and we just were not able to find anything. Now, because that all changed when we got this book. I know if I were to blow on it right now, dust would totally go into the camera, so I'm not going to do that, but it is dusty. But this book got me searching again because I said to this woman, I told her, well, let me spend some time over the next week doing some research to see if I can find a connection to this woman and my husband's family, because if they're related, I totally want this book. And she said, okay, yeah, have at it and let me know. So I spent about, a week or a week and a half researching this woman. The only information I had was her name, that she lived and died in Quincy, Illinois, and she died in 1920, and that she had a foster daughter, and I had her foster daughter's name because this came with an obituary. So it came with, let's see, where did I set it? Here it is. It came with this envelope full of letters from the woman who sent this to me, and then it also had newspaper clippings that were included in the photo album. So there was all these little clues as to who this woman might have been who owned this photo album. So it came with pictures and postcards with names on the back, which I'm going to talk about. Oh, that's funny. Right when I looked up at the video, you guys, it was 11 minutes and 44 seconds into the video. I just got my spirit bumps. For those of you who don't know, I always see the number 144, always connected to family history and the gathering of Israel. So that's really cool. I just saw that right now. Anyways, you probably can't tell I'm excited, right? Okay, so there's some really old newspaper clippings in here of obituaries, and there's photos and just all these little tiny clues and pieces of history about who this woman might have been. And it's very mysterious, so I'm going to share some of the things I've learned throughout this little journey, and I'm sure that more of the story will unfold over the next coming months, and I'll probably do an update. Anyways, so I spent some time going through this, and I did find that the reason, obviously, her last name was Reach was because she married a man with the last name Reach. So it wasn't her given name, it was her married name. And I couldn't find anything about him. I did find a headstone. So his name was Ferdinand Reach. And I found his headstone, and then what was interesting is there was a second headstone for the same man in the same cemetery. And somebody made a note on the cemetery website that they believe it's the same man, but because he was a Civil War soldier, I don't know how that works, but somebody did like a tribute and made him a Civil War headstone way back then, in addition to the headstone he already had. So I think his name shows up different. It's even spelled different on both of the headstones. This happens a lot, you guys. I've noticed whenever I can't find someone in a cemetery, it's probably because 9 times out of 10, their name is spelled wrong. So, and I've had it completely wrong, not even just spelled wrong, but somebody wrote down the completely wrong first name on a headstone, or even last name. It happens more than you think. It's crazy. I don't think that would happen nowadays. But I found that to be the case quite a bit. And so that's how it was for him. And again, we have a really difficult last name. I always joke with people, you know, the way you spell our last name is you throw in every consonant in the alphabet and you leave out all the vowels. That's how you spell our last name. So anyways, his name was spelled different on headstones and on Civil War records. It was different every single time. And his first name is Ferdinand, and sometimes he would show up as Ferd or Fred, and it changed all the time. I think I even found somebody who wrote his name down as Fritz. So yeah, there was a lot of mistakes with his name. Well, anyways, as I started researching, I found out there were other Germans who came over in the mid-1830s to the United States, mainly like Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. I think there might have been some Ohio. And they came to those areas and settled, and that's where a lot of the Reaches came. That's when they came. And what's interesting is I thought, okay, if there were so many reaches that came way back then, where did they all go now? How come we're like the only ones that I've been able to find here in the US? I don't know. An interesting clue, something that I learned as I've been going through this mystery of this book, is this woman did not have children. And so it made me wonder if maybe a lot of these reaches didn't have children, and that's why their posterity just kind of died off over here. But she didn't have children, and she had a foster daughter. So she took in someone else's daughter and kind of raised her with her husband. And then I just recently learned, just a couple days ago, that she was married more than once. And so she was married to another man for a good 20 years before she married Ferdinand Reach. And so she didn't have children with that man either. Excuse me. So anyways, the mystery continued, and I was super determined. I thought, okay, I just feel like I want to solve this mystery. I want to find out who these people are, and I'm feeling, I feel like a detective. And I don't know about you, but I love a good mystery. I love a good detective show, and I thought, okay, this could be fun. We'll see what we can find. So as I got going along, I was finding more information about who these people might have been. I found an immigration record of when her family came over, but not the Reach family. And as I was doing this, I went back into my husband's tree, and I just had this feeling to pull up his records and click on the edit button. I don't know why, because I thought, why would I edit this? I don't have anything to add to these records, but I just felt like I needed to click on edit. So I did, and that's when I learned something that changed everything. I feel like I'm turning into a family history channel, you guys. I'm not a family history YouTube channel, not at all. But I just have so many passions and interests that I feel like my YouTube channel is totally schizophrenic. I cover too many different topics, and I'm so sorry, but bless your heart for those of you who don't mind that. You still watch my videos. So anyways, and I just lost my train of thought. So I pulled up my husband's tree, I clicked on the edit button, and that's when I realized what was going on. So in his tree, we finally hit a brick wall. And every time we would pull up the last generation of people that we had and we would click search records, nothing would come up every time. It would say 0 matches, 0 matches. It didn't matter if it was his mom's side or his dad's side. It didn't matter. We got 0 matches on everything. And I thought, okay, how could it be this hard? This is pretty hard. And I don't know how determined I am, right? So I would take a break every few years, look back into it, hit another brick wall, take another break for a few years, and the pattern just continued until I received this album. And I went in and I clicked on the edit button, and I noticed right away when I looked at these records that had been inputted, that's terrible grammar, entered, yes. I noticed that in the fields, so you have the person's first name, their middle name, their last name, and then a suffix field where you'll put like senior, junior, the third, you know how people have that little addition to their name. And what had happened is the first name was in the right spot, so first name was right, but then the middle name got shifted over to the last name. So say the person's middle name was Johann, suddenly it's showing their last name as Johann. And then if their last name was Reach, Reach got kicked into the suffix. So every time we hit search, the name was jumbled up in the system, and so no records were showing to be a match. And it was this way across his whole tree, you guys, for several generations. So I talked to my husband, I showed it to him, and he's like, that is really weird. He's like, it would have been me or my dad who entered these records, and we're intelligent enough to know, first name, last name. I can't explain that. He said the only thing I can think is that maybe there was like a system update and there was a bug on the German side of it, and it just shifted all those fields around. So either way, I fixed it, and then I hit search, you guys, and just suddenly all these records showed up, and I'm getting my spirit bumps right now because it was so cool. In that moment, we were like, what? After all these years of hitting a brick wall, finally all these records are totally showing up. So we were super excited, and right away it just lit something inside of us. That spark ignited, and we just went to town. And right away we found the next generation and the next generation. And then we'd pull up all these records and he would zoom in on them and he's like, oh my gosh, that's their handwriting. That is so cool. Like, that's my ancestors' handwriting. And we started to find all these little pieces of their story, and I don't know if he's had a chance yet to tell his family the good news, but it's really cool. The other part to this is I'm excited. I hope we figure out this little part of the mystery. Is my husband did a DNA test. Oh, when was it? Last year. I put in for him to have, it was, I think, well, he's done all of them. He's done the family search, or sorry, Ancestry, 23andMe, and I think we did, it's called Living DNA, and that one's really cool because it's just for over in Europe, and what that DNA test will do is it will show you exactly where the paternal line of your family, and I think also the maternal line, like the town, like the region that they originated from. So it'll show you the whole story of your family. Like, here's where you are now, and follow the little dotted lines across this world map, and here's where you immigrated from, and your family migrated over the years, and they originated over here in this part of the world. And it shows you the history of where they kind of moved around, and I don't know, it's really cool. So it can kind of help with your family history efforts, I think, if you can know where they originated, if you want to go back far enough, and you can start in that region and work your way back. So anyways, that was pretty cool. But when we were doing these DNA tests, we saw that he has a percentage of Jewish in his DNA. And he's like, what? I had no idea. That's so interesting. And I can't remember, we discovered something, and I realized, I wonder if there's some kind of a story in your family where maybe you had a Jewish family member, and maybe during the war, or sometime during that period, they tried to hide their identity, and so nobody knew they were Jewish, because he's like, I've never heard of any stories of anybody being Jewish in my family, but it showed a pretty significant piece in his DNA. So I'm like, okay, I'm determined to figure that one out. So all these neat stories. Well, anyways, back to this book. So we got that all figured out, and we were able to start finding all these names in my husband's tree. And then I went back over to this book and started looking up these records of these people, and started to learn more about that German migration. And maybe some of you out there are familiar with this, but I learned that around between the period of 1830 and 1850, at that time over in Germany, there was a lot of oppression, and so people didn't have freedom of religion, they didn't have freedom of land. At any time, your land could just be taken away from you without your choice. It could just be taken away from you, and you would be left with nothing. You were told what religion you had to be, and so there came a point in time when a lot of the German people were kind of fed up with that, and so they all came to America by the thousands. It's like one of the biggest German migrations of all time throughout all history here to the United States, and it was something I don't ever remember learning about in history. But it was like tens of thousands of Germans that came over between 1830 and 1857, I want to say. And they just came, and it was very important for them to have that freedom of religion and to be able to have land and be able to keep that land. So they came over and purchased land, and then once they were established, they would send for the rest of their family, and they would come over. And so you see a lot of these towns over in the Midwest and eastern side of the United States that were founded by Germans. They're these little German towns, and the architecture is German, and the names are German, and it's really neat. So that was my, that was what I was discovering with this family. Now, what's interesting is I went back far enough on Catherine Reach's side of the family, and I saw that they came from a part of Prussia that's near where my German line is from on my side of the family. And I thought, okay, that would be really funny if through this book I make a connection with my family, and then I make a connection with my husband's family, and we're just all connected. That would be really cool. So anyways, I want to show you guys some of the stuff. I have been finding out quite a bit, and I'm still like on the trail of trying to piece all these clues together. So I'm still in the midst of this detective work. But I want to show you how this started. So this book, you guys, it is so old. Look at this. I don't even know what to call that, but it's like the latch has hinges on it. And I guess you could just keep adding plates. It has these thick pages that remind me of like gold plates. And every time you would insert and add another plate, you could like adjust the latch so that it would fit your plates, or you could take some out and, you know, make it tighter. So it's got this old metal latch, and the cover of the album is this crushed red velvet. It's kind of faded, it's kind of more rusty colored, and it's really falling apart, so I'm afraid to touch it. And you can see it's like ripping at the seams. And the day that I opened it and I got it out of the box, the day that it arrived, I guess I should back up the story a little bit. I finally reached out to her and I said, you know what, I haven't quite confirmed a connection, but I'm getting closer and closer. I'm finding their ancestors, the Reaches that came over, that settled in that area where she's from. They came from an area where my husband's family's Reaches came from. So I'm sure if I go back far enough, they're distant cousins. I said, why don't you just go ahead and send me the book? I have spent so much time researching it. I feel this strong connection to this family now, and it feels like we're related. I feel like I've known them forever. I feel like I know so much about them, and they've become a part of our life. You may as well send it. So she's like, oh good. And she mailed it to me, and I got it a couple days later, and it was like Christmas morning. It came, I was so excited. My family gathered around, and I ripped it open, and it was completely packaged so tight with several layers of tissue paper. And I got through all of it, and I opened it up, and all of a sudden I just started sneezing like crazy. I was like sneezing and coughing, my eyes were watery, and I started to wonder if like the inside of this book, what it's stuffed with, I wondered, could that be asbestos? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they use that to stuff their photo albums, but something in here was really getting into my lungs, and I was having a hard time. But I got past that, and now I'm used to it. But I want to show you the back of this. So it's got these metal hinges on the back. It's pretty heavy duty, pretty solid. This book is really sturdy, really heavy. It's lasted over a century. We're thinking it could be as old as the 1850s, possibly even older. I have no way of knowing, so if there's anybody out there who is a historian or an expert on antiques, if you wouldn't mind giving a best guess on dating this, I would be so curious. I would love to know. Okay, so let's go ahead and open it. I'm going to show you what I saw. Okay, so right away, the first page of this photo album is this woman right here. And I thought to myself, could that be Catherine Reach? You know, it's the very first picture you see when you open the photo album. And what's interesting is it's the only page in the whole photo album. As you get going in the photo album, it's like this. It's divided into these smaller sections for smaller pictures. And so it almost makes me feel like whoever was pasted on the front here was very significant. Either the woman who owned this was a significant figure in her life, or this is a photo of the woman who owned the album. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as we go through this. If any of you guys have any thoughts or suggestions or opinions, I'd love to hear it. No answer's a bad answer. It's all good. So, all right. So I flipped through it, and you know what's funny is she looks like my husband's side of the family, which is funny because she's not by blood a Reach. She married into that name, but maybe it's just the German. Her maiden name is Wilt, W-I-L-T, which means wild in German. So a lot of Germans that came over with the last name Wilt, or I guess if I said it appropriately or properly, it would be Wilt. People changed their name to Wild, and they gave them the English version of their last name. So a lot of these records, when I type in Wilt, I can't find anything, but if I type in Wild, suddenly their records pop up. So I've seen the spellings changed numerous times. I've tried to talk my husband into changing the spelling of our last name because it's Reach. It's just like it sounds, Reach, you know, reaching for the stars. I'm like, will you just change our last name to R-E-A-C-H and make it easy on everyone? He's like, no. It's even hard for Germans to spell our last name, apparently. So anyways, I get why that happened. So then next, as I went through here, I see this picture of this man, and he's next in line on there. In fact, I scanned all of these photos in, and I've got them all digital now. I've got them on my computer, so I've uploaded them. I started building this family their own tree. Okay, so here's where the story gets cool. I thought to myself, okay, I've gone into Family Tree and I've tried to see if I can find any of these people. I have all these clues, I have some names and dates. I typed in everything and nobody came up. And especially this Catherine Reach didn't come up because she didn't have any posterity. So because she didn't have any children, she had no grandchildren or great-grandchildren, she had no descendants who were looking for her, who were trying to build a family tree and find her. There's nobody looking. And so I thought to myself, could it be possible that they want to be discovered, that they want their story told, that they want people to know that they existed, that they were real, that they at one time lived here on the earth and, you know, had a life, had a family, had a story, and now they've been forgotten. And it started to remind me of the movie Coco. If you've seen the movie Coco, you know what I'm talking about. And I always felt so sad on that part in the movie when the ancestors felt forgotten. And as soon as people stopped putting their photos out and telling their stories, they would disintegrate and just like turn into dust particles and fade away. And it was so sad. It was a sad part of the movie. And I was thinking about that and I thought, okay, well, I would love to find out who this family is, and I would love to share their story. So I started building them a tree and I started adding branches to it, and it's now starting to grow, and I finally have been able to connect them in to the main family tree. It's a worldwide family tree for those of you who don't know. On FamilySearch.org, I always want to say .com. It's one big worldwide family tree, and the goal is to branch in everybody into this one tree. And so these people weren't even in the tree, so I was able to add them and create a branch, and I'm super excited about that. And anyways, so moving on, then I get these photos right here. Ta-da. And in fact, you know what I'm going to tell you guys right now? To make this easier, if you follow me on Facebook under The Happy Lady, I went on there last week and I shared all of these photos in here, and I numbered them, and I asked everybody who follows me to look at these photos and give me your best guess on who you think, if you see any matches. So for example, the woman on the first page, if you look at these other group photos, like this one right here, if you think anybody in the group photo looks like the woman on the first page, you know, let me know your thoughts. So I put that out there and I had a few people respond, and it was really helpful. I was able to group some of these people together and say, okay, we'll call this lady for now Jane Doe. I don't know who she is because a lot of these photos don't have names on them. But for now we know Jane Doe is in 5 of these pictures. So as soon as we can figure out who she is, we now have 5 pictures to upload to her family tree. So if you'd like to be a part of that challenge, head on over to Facebook under The Happy Lady and find this post. It's just still pretty recent, so if you scroll down, you should find it right away. And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to look at these pictures and tell me your thoughts, you can be a part of this great detective work. You can join me with this mystery. It can be a lot of fun. Okay, so then there's more. There's this woman with this interesting hairstyle. Yeah, that's the first thing my kid said is, Mom, that is an interesting hairstyle. It's been fun to look at the fashions from back then, and let me tell ya, I would love to learn how to date a photo by the fashions. To me, it's all just old. I'm like, well, that's just old. It's definitely like 1910 and earlier, that's all I know. But I would love to be able to tell very specifically by looking at the details of the fashions of the day, what decade that could have been, you know, in that century. So I'm not that good. So anyways, as I was going through, I get to a part where there is, I don't know, I would love to know her story. There's this beautiful woman. She is so beautiful. Most of these people are German. I have been able to find that out. And I'd love to know her story. And then there's this beautiful baby right here. Seriously, one of the most beautiful babies I have ever seen. She's so, and I shouldn't say she. Little boys wore dresses back then. That could be a boy baby for all I know. Either way, this baby is so cute, and I would like to know who it is. So I do know that somebody in this photo album should be Catherine Reach, and somebody should be her foster daughter. Her name was Edith Eisenstein, and then when she got married, her name became Edith West, and she moved to New York City. So I do know that, but I don't know who in here is Edith. I think, though, if you go over to my Facebook page, you'll see our conversation. I think I might have figured out which one of these photos is Edith. And I'm almost getting the feeling, I don't know, it just feels right. So tell me your thoughts. I almost feel like this photo album belonged to Catherine Reach, and then when she passed away, her daughter inherited everything, because I found her will, and when I found her will, it said that her daughter inherited all of her trinkets and extra things, and I would imagine she would have inherited this photo album, and so I think she added some things to it. So there could be photos in here that are from Edith's childhood, or even her life after she was married. I did find a Christmas card I'll show you in a minute that's so cool. That was addressed to Edith, which tells me this ended up with Edith, and she started putting some things in here that were special to her. So that's what I think happened. But here's this photo of this cute little girl. I want to know who she is, you guys. She's so cute. And I don't think it's Edith, because I think we located Edith based on this clue right here. This is a birthday party from 1911, and on the back, this is so cool, bless the person who wrote this. It lists all the names of the people in the photo, and it has numbers next to the names so that you can look and count, you know, oh, if this is number 2, you know, maybe it's this person. What's tricky though is you don't know which way they counted. You don't know if they counted this direction, or if they started up here, or if they went this way and then count. We don't know. But there were clues in the photo, so I want to explain that to you because it was pretty cool. So in the photo you have this adult woman right here and an adult woman down here, and then you have 2 boys. Everybody else is girls. And on the back of the photo there are 2 boy names right here. It says, let's see, Mrs. Pronte, and then there's other children with the same last name, and 2 of them are boys. So it's a boy, a girl, a boy, and then Mrs. Pronte. So if you look here, you see a boy, a girl, a boy, and Mrs. Pronte. So that helped us start to narrow down the direction we think this person was counting. And so based on our theory, if this is right, where they counted this section first and then this section, that would make this girl right here Edith. Can you see that? That would be her. That would be the foster daughter that inherited, I don't know, can you see that? That inherited this photo album, and she doesn't look anything like the little girls in these pictures. So I would like to know who they are. Now because of the clues on the back of this card, I know you guys, you probably think I have a lot of time on my hands, and I honestly don't. But when I get going down a rabbit hole, I just keep going. And I got curious and I thought, well, who are these people? Obviously they were friends with this family, you know, maybe they were important or special. I mean, sometimes, don't you feel like sometimes your neighbors and your friends feel more like family at times in your life than your own family? Maybe that was the case with some of these people. So I'd like to find out who they are too, and learn their stories. So I started looking up all of their records, and sure enough, same thing. They weren't in Family Tree. Nobody had ever entered them. Their stories were not out there. There were no photos. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna change that. So I've been determined to build a tree for all these different families, whether or not they're related to each other, put them in the tree. I want to upload every single one of these photos to the right family. So I want to make sure I get that right, and then tell their story. And I've been able to piece together their story based on newspaper articles, cemetery records, immigration records, and just little clues in this photo album. So it's been pretty neat. The other thing that's pretty cool, this is gonna sound a bit much. If there's anybody out there who's like me, you're gonna be fascinated with this video, and for everybody else, I'm so sorry, this is probably boring for you. But here's a picture of a house. I have no idea whose house that is. It does show up in other pictures, and it shows up with the same ladies. And so it tells me the people in this book spent time visiting this house and visiting these ladies. So maybe they were cousins or siblings. I was able to find out who the ladies were in one of the house pictures because the names were written on the back, and there were 3 ladies, and I had to figure out which lady was who, so I had to go find birth records and census records with their names, and then by age I could tell who was who in the picture. So I was able to locate those 3 ladies, and I still don't know whose house that is, but I will say that with every census record I found, I would type in the address. I would go to Google Maps. Oh, you guys. And I would type in their address, and every single time a house would come up, and it was still there. It was still the original house from the 1800s. So I've typed in several home addresses from this small town of Quincy, Illinois, and I have found so many homes. A lot of them were in the same neighborhood for all the people who lived in this photo album, or I mean, are documented in this photo album. And their homes are still there, and they're as cute as can be. It's just a really old part of the city, and it's really well preserved. And a lot of the buildings, like the churches they went to, and just some of the stores, like those buildings are still there, and they're considered, what's it called when it's preserved with the American Historical Society, I forget the word that I'm looking for, but anyways, it's recognized as an old preserved home, and so it shouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon. So I found a lot of their homes. They're still there, but I have not been able to find that home. And the only thing I can think of is it possible I just haven't found the address yet, or could it have burned down and they rebuilt so the house wouldn't look the same anyways? I have no way of knowing yet, but I'm determined to find out. Here's the lady again with the interesting hair, and it's funny to kind of see her picture change throughout this photo album. She gets younger and younger. So I'd like to know her story. This could be her husband. He shows up a couple of times as well. And look at that, you guys. If you got rid of that mustache, he could totally pass for somebody from 2022. Very handsome, don't you think? Definitely. Oh, sorry. Something else that's kind of fun is I went onto myheritage.com, and they have this cool effect in there. It's free. It's so cool, and I've never known about it before till I went in there and I uploaded some of these photos, and you can click on a button that will colorize the photo. So, well, actually there's 3 things you can do. You can click on a button that gets rid of all the blemishes on the photo. So if there's water damage or cracks or tears, it'll clean all of that up and have it looking brand new. Then you click on a button next to it, and it will colorize the photo so it looks modern, well, as modern as it can be. And then the 3rd button you click on, it animates their photo and brings them to life. And it just takes a few seconds, and all of a sudden their face is turning and they're blinking, and it looks like they're talking, and it's just, whoa. I did that the other day, and it blew me away, you guys. Suddenly, these faces right here are looking back at me, and they're blinking, and they're looking at me, and it just almost felt like they were wanting to say something like, thank you, or don't give up on me, keep trying to find my story, keep trying to find my family. And it was almost a little bit emotional there for a moment. It was pretty surreal. And so I have to say kudos to myheritage.com, because that's a pretty cool feature, and you don't get it till you use it. And in that moment when you use it, it just really ignites a spark inside of you to want to know who these people were. And it just creates this love for these people that you don't even know, but you want to know, and you start to feel like you do know them as you get learning their stories. So anyways, it goes on and on. Here they are again. Look, they're getting younger, which is funny because she looks younger, but he looks older. He's now bald. So I'm almost wondering if Maybe these pictures are older and that's why he's bald, or if this is somebody else, maybe a brother. But the pictures, the quality look older, so I would think it would be their younger pictures. Then you get to this page here, you got these two brothers, and there they are. I would love to know their story because there's just a whole page of just them. And I want to know, okay, are these some of the other men in the photo album and this is them when they were younger and we watched them grow up through the photo album? I don't know. I know there's also websites and there's technology, but you have to pay for it, where it can locate photos. So you can put in a photo of anybody and it will search the entire, every website all over the internet, and it will try to locate any other photos out there who come close to the photo that you have, and that way you can find who these people are. I haven't done that yet because I haven't wanted yet to pay for it. So I'd love to be able to do that. And then, oh, you guys, sorry, this is the beautiful baby right here. Oh, somebody says, any old pictures of Wayne Gretzky? Not that I'm aware of, I'm so sorry. Look at this right here. She is so cute. I feel safe to say it's a she. Like I said, it could be a boy. Boys wore dresses back then in their baby photos. But oh my goodness, I just feel like it's a she. She's so cute. She's so cute. And I don't know if there's, I don't know, it could be her, this lady right here, when she was younger. I mean, they're next to each other, and so it makes me wonder if the photos are next to each other, if they're related, if there's a connection. I don't know. But I want to know her story. She is just so stinking cute. Such a cute little girl. So anyways, I pulled out all the photos, and none of them say on the back anything. There's no names, no dates. There were only a couple, and I think I've showed those to you. And so that's all I have to go with. Oh, look at the inside, by the way. Look at that. It looks like really cool vintage wallpaper. I could see that coming back in style. Pretty neat. So let me show you this Christmas card, you guys. Oh, sorry, let me show you this. Look at this. This looks like it was a girls' night, like a girls' getaway, a girls' weekend. This is that same house I was telling you about, and you got these four ladies who show up in another photo. I think I've got it here. Let's see. Anyways, they show up in some other photos, and it looks like they had just woke up in the morning and they've got their nightcaps on. It's like a pajama party. Totally fun, right? And I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I'm feeling like it's a mother-daughter situation. Like maybe this is mom and these are her daughters, or it could be cousins. I don't know, but they show up in other photos together with this house. And then I have the same house with other women in front of them. So you see my predicament? It's a lot going on here. Okay, here is some more. Let me show you this. Guys, this is like a whole treasure chest of history. This totally looks like a stamp. I love it. And you know, back then, photos were pretty heavy duty. This is like cardstock. It's like a thick piece of cardboard. But look at that. I would love to know their story. And they kind of look like some of the people in the group photos. So I want to know who they are. This definitely needs to be retouched. It's got orange spots on it. I feel bad. Her pictures didn't turn out so well over the years. But I'd love to know her story. I think she could even be this woman right here. What do you guys think? I don't know. I see a little bit of a resemblance, so let me know your thoughts. Okay. And then I've got a couple of these photos right here. I've got a couple of these photos of this man right here with her, and she kind of looks like Edith. So let me show you guys that photo again of the birthday party. Let's see, here it is, right here. So if you look, remember, Edith is right there in black. So let me do this. If you look, do you see a resemblance with Edith and the woman in the photo? I think I do, but I'd love to get a second opinion because she has a shadow on her face in this picture. So I think this could be Edith, and if so, could this be who Edith married when she became Edith West? I would love to know. Here's the other photo of the sleepover ladies. So here's them in their nightcaps. I'm not seeing Wayne Gretzky, I'm sorry, but you know what, that's why I'm asking for opinions. Okay, look at this. This is definitely this lady here, seems to be this lady here, and this girl here, which could be her daughter, very much looks like her. So looks like the same house, could have even have been taken the same weekend. And this looks like grandma. So I'm guessing grandma, her daughter, and her daughters. So 3 generations, grandma, daughter, granddaughters. And I have no idea who these girls are in the background. It's a mystery, you guys. It's a mystery. So I would love to figure that out. And then last of all, before I show you the Christmas card and wrap this up, look at these dogs. Oh my goodness, so cute. Okay, what breed of dog is that? Looks like you've got the mom, the dad, and the 2 little puppies, and they are so cute. And I think it's pretty cool that their dogs were so important that they got a photo to always remember their pets. And I think it's also pretty cool that they have a family of pets. That they have the mom, the dad, and the puppies, because nowadays you don't see that anymore. So cute. I have, for those of you who follow me, you know I have a lab retriever. I have like a white, his name's Ace, and he's like a horse, but he's part retriever, part lab, and he's a special breed. He wasn't cheap, that's for sure. Wayne's puppies, oh my goodness. Maybe, sure. Anyways, so one day I was looking at the history of that breed, and I started learning about dogs that are in his line. What's so funny, you guys, is when we bought our dog, he came with a pedigree chart. I'm not even kidding. He came with a pedigree chart. So it shows his parents, his grandparents, all the way back to England, because he's an English lab retriever. And I didn't know this, but when we took him to PetSmart just to get his normal checkup, they automatically did a DNA test. I guess it's just part of the service they provide. And they did a DNA test, and we got this email one day that was like, oh, check out Ace's DNA. And I was like, what? So I clicked on it, and it showed my dog's DNA chart all the way back to England, which I knew, but it was funny to have that confirmed. So I started looking up the history of his breed and like where the first lab came from. It's really cool if you have time on your hands. I highly recommend checking out the history of the Labrador Retriever. It's a pretty cool history. And so it came from a dog that is now extinct, and I think the last dog died in the early 1900s. And at that time I learned that there's a lot of dog breeds that died off and became extinct. Oh, there's Ace. He hears me talking about him. He wants to come in. There's a lot of dog breeds that died off, and so as I was looking at this breed right here, it's an old photo so I can't tell. I wondered if this could be one of those breeds, or if this seems to be a purebred, a breed that we have today. I mean, it looks like a terrier. I don't know what you guys think. It looks like a terrier, but I would love to know more about these dogs even. I tell ya, I have just fallen for this family, even their dogs. So anyways, I'm gonna end, before I wrap things up, with the story of what happened to Catherine, because I didn't know till these 2 super old obituaries fell out of the photo album. I feel like they're gonna disintegrate. I'm afraid to touch them. Here I am touching them. I should probably be wearing gloves. But listen to this. It just even brought it more closer to home. I'm like, oh, poor Catherine. Okay, so this is the first article. It says, breaks hip in fall down cellar. And I read that headline, and I'm like, what kind of headline is that? That's terrible. It made the town newspaper. It says, Mrs. Catherine Reach, check it out guys, they spelled it wrong again. Look at that. You can't find this name spelled right anywhere, not even on their tombstones or their birth certificate. Mrs. Catherine Reach is confined to her home, 417 South 9th Street, suffering from an accident at her home. The cellar opening is on the porch, and Mrs. Reach, who is well along in years, failed to notice that one of the cellar doors was open when she stepped out onto the porch. She fell through the opening and, striking the steps, rolled to the bottom. And I was like, oh, you guys, as I've spent all this time learning about this amazing woman, I'm now reading about how she died, and it was so heartbreaking. It was so sad. With considerable exertion, she was able to get up and out of the cellar. And when I was reading this, I was like, yes! And I was rooting for her. Yes! She got up. When she called Mrs. Mattie E. Mercer, who lived with her and who assisted her into the house, Dr. A.W. Werner was called and found that Mrs. Reach, who will be 69 in November, was suffering from internal injuries and a broken hip. Now, we all know what happens to elderly people when they break their hip. Well, especially when they fall, they usually, most often, break their hip. And usually when they break their hip, it usually means sudden death. They usually don't last a fall, which is why it's so scary when elderly people live alone and you worry about them falling. I have a grandma that's 97. She's blind and she lives alone. And she's just kind of stubborn. She doesn't want to live in an assisted living center. So she lives alone, and she's been blind for about 12 years, I think. And she has fallen a couple of times, and it's been pretty scary, but she hasn't broken a hip yet. But yeah, this is pretty scary. So she broke her hip, and then the next article, you know, it says it in the title. It's under deaths. And I was like, oh, darn it. Mrs. Catherine Reach. The death of Mrs. Catherine Reach, a lifelong resident of Adams County, occurred at 3:20 o'clock Tuesday afternoon in Blessing Hospital, where she had been a patient for the last 8 weeks. So she suffered with a broken hip for 8 weeks, which tells me she's a fighter. I like learning that about her. She died of a complication of diseases following an illness of 8 months. Mrs. Reach was born in Melrose Township on December 3rd, 1846. She was a member of Salem Church and the Ladies' Aid Society. I have a cool story about that. I have a lot of stories, sorry. Let's see, of that church. One daughter, Mrs. Edith West of New York City, survives. Funeral announcement is made elsewhere in this paper. So this is how we were able to find out about her foster daughter and all the dates that we needed so we could get started and build this tree. Something cool, I did look up the church and on Google Maps, and I looked up the history of the Ladies' Aid Society. This is pretty cool, you guys. I don't know, guys, I love history. I'm a history nerd, sorry. So for those of you who are familiar with the church that I belong to, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have something for the women called the Relief Society, and that was established by Emma Smith. I can't tell you the exact year right now, but whoever out there knows, feel free to comment. It was back in the 1800s, and it's basically a society for women where we relieve the suffering of others. So it's basically, we help lift the burdens of other people in our church. So we bring them dinners, we help out wherever help is needed, we're a shoulder to cry on, you know, basically just being Christ-like and just lifting the burdens of others. That's what we do. And it's always been really cool to learn the history of the Relief Society, which is the biggest women's organization on the planet. Like, it's a worldwide organization, and it's the biggest one in the world. But we do so much to relieve the suffering of people all over the world. This is cool. So I learned about this Ladies' Aid Society, which pretty much is the same thing. I looked up the history of the Ladies' Aid Society, and I think, if I remember correctly, this is a Lutheran church. And so she belonged to a Lutheran church, but there were other churches at that time who also had something like the Ladies' Aid Society, or called the Ladies' Aid Society. And there's a whole history of that, but it was basically the same thing where the women of the church bore the burdens and helped relieve everybody to keep the church going, right? And I found this old, it was like the notes, like the minutes from the meetings of the church in this town, and it said something like, "Thank goodness for the women of the Ladies' Aid Society. If it weren't for them, our church would be no more. They've kept it going every year through fundraising." And it listed like all these fun things they did to raise money. I mean, we're talking like clear back in the 1800s into like 1920, 1910. And it talked about like a chickens. I don't understand that comment, but I was just about to say chicken because one of their fundraisers was a fried chicken dinner. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And so I thought that was pretty cool that this was right around the time. The Ladies Aid Society started around the time that Emma Smith would have started the Relief Society, which kind of does something similar, but it's not only survived all this time, but it's become global, and it's the biggest women's organization in the world. So I absolutely love that. I just love history, you guys. So okay, let me show you this Christmas card because I just loved it. It's so cute. Here it is. Sorry, right. Where did it go? My goodness, things are just vanishing in plain sight. Here it is. Okay, so the size of it is so different. We don't have cards with envelopes like this nowadays. It's the size of like a credit card, a super long credit card. But it has her name, Mrs. Edith West, right here. You can see it has a street. I think I looked this up, and there's like a building there now, but it's 102 West 61st Street in New York City. So there's that, and I opened it up, and it's actually, I guess technically it's a New Year's wishes card. Okay. See that? Okay, it says New Year's wishes, and then inside it's got this old paper that fell out of it, which it's pretty much disintegrating. Oh my goodness. And it's so cute. It says, to convey the hope that in the new year, all the joys of the past one will be doubled. I absolutely love that. So it's so cute. And out of it fell this. It was a woman's name with numbers written on it. And so I'm trying to figure out who she is. I think she showed up on one of their documents. I think she might have been in one of the wills. So I don't know. It's interesting. You guys, also on some of these photos, if you go over to my Facebook page, you'll see this. I took pictures of the back of these photos because it shows the photography studio, which can be helpful. And on like a couple of the pictures, it has these weird numbers that somebody wrote down on more than one photo. And at first I thought it was a math problem. I was like, okay, it looks like someone's doing some addition. But then I noticed there was no little plus sign and there was no total. And usually when people are doing addition, they'll like cross things out or, sorry, looks like my face is melting right now. It's hot in here. If they're doing subtraction, addition, you know, they'll carry the one. You'll just see that they're doing a math problem, and there's nothing. It's just these strange digits written with a line underneath it and then nothing. And it's underneath names. So it'll have like, there was a guy's name, it was like John something, but the picture was a woman, so I was really confused. And then it had the digits on the back. Someone wrote in pencil underneath his name. And then it's on a couple others. It's really weird. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that was a thing, if it means something, if it's something that was like a German tradition, or if maybe whoever owned these photos, they were just jotting random numbers on the back of the cards, you know, adding things up, who knows. So that I'm determined to find out. I'm determined to get to the bottom of these mysteries, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Hey, I've got some kids waiting for me. A couple more things I just want to squeeze in here real quick. I think I'm going to do more of these live videos just because I don't have to edit them. So I feel like I can just get on here and share what I want to share, and then it's out there and it saves so much time for me. So I might do some more of these where I just talk about random things and get your thoughts and opinions. I think it's kind of fun. So a couple things I just wanted to share. Just so random, you guys. There's a YouTube channel, my daughter, I just thought of it because she's sitting right over here. Something that we've kind of connected with that's kind of funny is there's a YouTube channel. Let me tell you the name of it. It's right here. It's the sweetest old man. He's so sweet. He's so cute. Let's see. It is called Feature Man. So it's all one word, Featureman, Feature Man. And he, well, maybe I'll just turn this around and show you. There it is. There's a glare. Anyways, he is like, he's a guy that used to work in the film industry, so he has a lot of really cool old stories of old movies and actors and actresses that you'd be familiar with from, you know, iconic movies that most people know about. And then he shares stories of movies I've never heard of, but he's just the funniest, nicest man, and he actually has a really big following on his channel. He's got 332,000 subscribers, and the reason we love it so much is because he gets on, so it's kind of like a guilty pleasure pastime type of thing. I just thought I would share with you guys. I don't know, we enjoy watching his channel. He does these videos where he shows you what he's making for lunch that day, and he'll tell you like the store that he bought it from, and he'll tell you what he's cooking, how he's gonna cook it. So it's kind of like a little cooking show, and then he sits down and you get to eat with them. So he eats his lunch while he talks to you, and then he tells you stories about movies, and he has fun with the special effects on his program. And so all of a sudden he'll be eating like some SpaghettiOs, and like a dinosaur flies over his head, and just random things like that, and he doesn't make any mention of it, and it's just hilarious, and we laugh so hard. So it's something my daughter and I have been able to connect on. We look forward to all of his videos because they make us laugh. He's so funny, and he'll play songs on the piano, he'll tell jokes. He's just a really funny, nice man, and he just reminds you of everything that's good in the world. So on days when you need a boost and you need a good laugh and there's just too much crazy stuff going on in the headlines, I recommend checking out his channel and watching his videos. So anyways, and then maybe I'll save this for the next video. I was just gonna give you guys some updates of some things going on with some of my projects. I'll be talking about down the road, so I think I'll save that for the next video. I've already been on here 67 minutes. Sorry you guys, I'm gonna get off now, and I'll respond later in the comments. My daughter's waiting for me and we have got to go. So I hope you're all having a great day. I hope you have a great week, and look forward to the next video coming out today or tomorrow. And I will see you next time. Bye.